Australians are waking up to the news this morning that Shane Warne has passed away. The cricket legend died from a suspected heart attack while on holiday in Thailand. Warne was found unresponsive in his villa in Koh Samui and tragically could not be revived by medical staff. The Australian cricket legend is regarded by many as not only the best leg spinner of all time, but also the greatest bowler the game has ever seen. Warne was just 52 years old.
Shane Warne retired as the greatest leg spinner the game had ever seen. But his career began with a splutter rather than a spark. Nobody who watched his 1992 Test debut against India would have thought they were seeing the start of anything special. Just one wicket and smashed for 150 runs. The tubby, mulleted blonde quickly found himself out of the Australian team. Warne, who wanted to play Aussie rules rather than cricket growing up, had to work his way back. Some good performances the following summer put him on the plane to England for the 1993 Ashes, and that's where everything changed.
First ball. Now what's happened? Mike Gatting staying there. The bail is off. He's bowled him. Gatting can't believe it.
His first ball ever in Ashes cricket, widely regarded as the greatest ball ever bowled.
I can understand Mike Gatting being disbelieving.
At the time, you just thought, oh, it was a good delivery. Look, oh, right, who's in next? And it just sort of grown. And, you know, I think it was one of the first years we had those big screens at the ground. So after a wicket, we'd all look up, and I thought, geez, that's pretty good.
From there, Warne dazzled with a genius never before seen. There'd been leg spinners before, good ones too, but none who had the control of Warne, the cricketing smarts to set up any batsman in the world, and the sheer brilliance to pull it off.
He's bowled him around the legs once again. And that's Shane Warne's best bowling in Test cricket.
I think when you watch me play, you could just see that I never ever gave up. I just always thought we could win. And I was very driven.
The myth of Warne would grow. The wrong-uns, the flippers, the sliders, the top spinners. An assortment of deliveries that would make the world's best batsmen look like club cricketers. In 1994, he became the 9th Australian to take a Test match hat-trick. Warne and fast bowler Glenn McGrath were the most devastating 1-2 punch in world cricket, and they were a huge part of Australia's unprecedented success. Warne, the greatest player in what most would consider the greatest cricket team ever assembled. Australia would win 8 straight Ashes series across 16 years, celebrate World Cup glory and record-breaking streaks of Test victories. His bowling feats were the stuff of legends, but he was also accomplished with the bat. Warne has the most runs in Test history for anyone without a century. In 2001, he fell just 1 run short.
There's a man out there who's getting under it, and he's got it. And Shane Warne tragically finishes on 99.
Warne was always the centre of attention, but not always for the right reasons. And on the eve of the 2003 World Cup, world cricket was rocked. Australia's golden boy banned for a year for taking a banned diuretic that Warne always said his mother gave to him to lose weight.
I never ever blame my mum, ever, and it sort of annoys me that people blame my mum. It wasn't fair. All I said was I got it from my mum, because otherwise people might have thought, oh, diuretic, where'd you get it from? Black market. I was just being honest about where I got it from and how simple a mistake it can be for anyone.
A year in the cricketing wilderness, and some thought that might have been the end for the ageing Warne, but he would return better than ever. The 2005 Ashes, a series Australia would lose, but it was Warne's finest with the ball.
Bowled him. That's brilliant from Shane Warne. He does it again.
A staggering 40 wickets from the 5 tests. His wizardry equally astonishing for those watching and those trying to play him.
And bowled him! How about that? Absolutely brilliant from Shane Warne. He can bring things out of nowhere.
Leaving the Oval for the last time, Warne was serenaded by the normally abrasive enemy crowd with chants of "Oh, how we wish you were English." Even the old enemy knew they were witness to greatness. The 06-07 Ashes would be the final send-off for Australia's greatest ever bowler after spinning Australia to the most unlikely of victories on day 5 of the now dubbed Amazing Adelaide Test. He announced the series would be his last. That meant one last Boxing Day Test in front of his adoring home crowd. He went to the MCG on 699 wickets. No man had ever reached 700.
Got him! There it is! Wicket number 700! And they can't catch him!
And with one last farewell at the SCG, Warne, along with McGrath and Justin Langer, ended a 15-year international career as the most decorated bowler the world had ever seen. But the on-field deeds would only tell half the Shane Warne story. He was a global celebrity like no one before him. In what could never be described as a high-octane game, and leg spin hardly thrilling, Warne was electrifying. He brought a swagger to the game. A cheeky smile and confident demeanour made him as much a crowd favourite as his extraordinary talents. Swashbuckling on and off the field, Warne became bigger than the game he was playing. An icon that transcended cricket and a legacy that will live on for generations. Shane Keith Warne. A genius, a champion, the king.
Warne's ball of the century in 1993 is one that will be replayed time and time again today. Mike Gatting was the man at the crease, and he's been kind enough to join me live. And now, Mike, thank you for your time on what is most certainly a tough day for everyone. It's just a huge shock, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable when I heard that he'd passed away, and devastated too, to lose such an amazing cricketer at such an early age, very similar to something like Malcolm Marshall. But, Warne was slightly different to Mako. He was a different person off the pitch. He inspired huge amounts of youngsters and cricketers alike to come along and watch the game, play the game, take up the game. And of course, there was the stuff that he did behind the scenes, doing exactly the same thing with the youngsters and just trying to make them smile as he did on the pitch. And he was just a fabulous man, a fabulous cricketer.
Australians absolutely loved him. We loved everything about him. England, they respected him as well. What was it to you that made him one of the greatest cricketers of all time?
He was an honest cricketer. He was a disciplined cricketer. He loved the game as much as anybody, I'm sure. And he thought about the game. He was a great tactician. He was always up the other end thinking about how to get somebody out, how to do something different. But all the while he was having fun. He enjoyed what he did, and it came across. And as I say, it was just an amazing bloke to have in your team. And he's one of those that, he would bowl his heart out for any team he played in because he wanted to win. And he really desperately wanted to win. But he wouldn't do it in any way other than the nice way. He'd get out there and he would just bowl people out, and he would do it with a smile on his face. And I can't say any more than that. He was just an inspiring cricketer. And if anybody wants to play the game, that's how it should be played.
Can you tell me a little bit about that ball of the century? What's your memory of facing it, and what did it mean for Warne and in his career? Because it's something that is just absolutely iconic. Doesn't matter whether young or old. A lot of people just remember that iconic.
Well, he always said to me, he said, "Thanks, mate, for missing it." I said, "I didn't mean to, I can assure you." But I think it was that wicket that, because he never lacked confidence, let's be fair. But he just needed a bit more belief, and I think that ball certainly took him to the next level of belief, and then from there on in, he just kept going upwards and upwards, and becoming the inspiration to many that he was, and the way that his skill level was just incredible, and working with somebody like McGrath at the other end, he had a little bit of pace and a bit of nastiness about him, but when you're bowling the ball that slowly. It takes a lot of courage, and because it's not always good, there are a lot of bad times, but he was just one of those competitive people that just never give up, and he would want to win all the time. So for me, he was a complete cricketer, and I'm just so proud to have been a friend and just listen to the stories and just talk cricket about anything, really. He was just great company, especially when you were talking about cricket from a different angle, because he was one of those guys that was always thinking about the game and thinking about it at a different level to others at times. And as I say, his cricket was at a different level most of the time.
Mike, it's an absolutely tragic day. I really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. Thank you, mate. We appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Well, Adelaide Oval 2006. Amazing Adelaide. Those words that hold special meaning for Australian cricket fans. Michael Hussey may have brought the team home, but it was Shane Warne who set up the famous win.
Placed off the full face of the bat, soft hands, boundary. Oh, there he goes, what a shot, what a cricketer. Punches the air, so he should. 1 run to win. Seagulls are flying, saluting the Australians. There it is, wonderful victory, wonderful innings. There goes Michael Hussey. Listen to the crowd.
Well, welcome back. It is a tragic day for the cricketing community right around the world, and indeed the sporting community, with the passing of Shane Warne. One man that knew him very well, Alan Border, captain the great Shane Warne, and he's kind enough to give us his time right now. Alan, good morning to you. It's a shocking morning. A lot of us are waking up to this news, and a lot of us can't believe it. And what did you wake up to?
Well, I got a text message from a mate of mine who lives in Dubai, and it just happened. I was just stirring for whatever reason and saw that, the phone light up, and I read this message, and I just, it took me a while to sort of comprehend because, just getting over Rod Marsh and trying to comprehend what happened there. All of a sudden, you just think, oh, this is some sort of prank, or it just can't be right. And I sort of got out of bed and quickly had a look at Fox Sports News site, and there it was in headlines. I still just couldn't quite comprehend. I thought I must be dreaming or something, something crazy like that. It just was very, very hard to comprehend, losing Shane Warne on top of Rod Marsh. Just a devastating couple of days for everyone who knew them well, and cricket community generally. I mean, it's just hard to really sort of put into words, and hard to digest what's just happened.
The age of 52 as well is so young still. It's hard, as you said, for a lot of people to wrap their heads around that this has happened, and what a devastating 48 hours, as you mentioned, with the passing of Rod Marsh. I mean, you captained Shane Warne. What was your initial thoughts when he made his debut? Was there something about him that you thought, gee, this kid's something special?
Yeah, it sounds easy to say now, but even at the time, I just thought there's just something about this young bloke. There was just an air of confidence about him. When he first debuted, he was a bit more roly-poly. Looked like he'd been surfing for a couple of months and just turned up at a cricket match. But and his figures weren't that flattering, but there was something about just his confidence and the way he landed his leg spinners. He didn't have much else going for him. Big spinning leg spinners, but the Indian boys really took to him. Ravi Shastri and Sachin Tendulkar hit him all over the place, and I think his figures were 1 for 150. So you sort of think, maybe it might, something about him, yeah, that's great, but 1 for 150, not a great start, but just in the dressing room and around, once he got a bit of a feel for what was required, I mean, he was like a sponge, learnt so quickly. So 1 for 150, not a great second test match in Sri Lanka. Then all of a sudden things started to turn around. And by the time we went to England in 93, I mean, we had the real deal. Just special. Probably didn't predict 700 plus test wickets either, but yeah, just what a performer he was. It's just I just can't believe he's gone. I still think I'm going to wake up and it'll all be just a terrible dream. Gee, Warne to Gatting. I mean, how good does that get? That's his first ball he's ever bowled in England, and that's what he produced. Just incredible. And I just knew from that moment we're going to win this. We're going to win this series. Simple as that.
You can see on Gatting's face there that look of shock. What just happened to me there? Can you give us an insight into, I guess, Warnie's cricket IQ? Because I mean, a lot of us on the outside see this flamboyant man who just he loves a cigarette, he loves a beer. He's an absolute larrikin of the game. But behind all of that, you had someone who is incredibly intelligent and knowledgeable in cricket.
Oh yeah, I mean. You sort of sometimes disregard that because of the character that he brings to the table. And what we hear now, the Shane Warne we were hearing as a commentator, is very, very different to the real guy. I mean, he's a really deep thinker of the game. And as I said, he's like a sponge from those early days to, bowling that ball to Mike Gatting in 93. His improvement as a cricketer was just unbelievable, just exponential improvement. And, he just got better and better. And then by the end of his career, he was getting out blokes before they even faced up. He just, the mental disintegration that he could apply was just phenomenal. So, I mean, he was a very, very smart guy, very smart cricketer. And he was fantastic to play with. Just a breath of fresh air for me as captain when he turned up. To have the ability to sort of just throw him the ball, and you just knew things were going to happen as soon as he got the ball in his hand. As I said, I can't believe he's not with us. I really can't. It's going to take me a while for this to sink in. That's for sure. Just watching these highlights, so many great memories of, a special person.
I think we're all with you there, AB. It's even sitting here reading it now, it doesn't quite seem real. Looking at all this, that Shane Warne is no longer with us. I mean, it's also a testament to the man that he was. He went through a number of hurdles in his career. Of course, he had that year out of the game, and a lot of people questioned whether we'd see the old Shane Warne back. But gee, when he came back with absolute thunder. And we're looking at scenes now. I mean, these are iconic. This is a lot of us grew up watching this, and it's just a testament to the man that he was.
Oh, look, phenomenal. The fact that he has a year out of the game because of a drugs ban, which is unbelievable in itself. But it is what it is. And then don't forget he had shoulder surgery when he popped his shoulder. Trying to field a ball in a game, and he also broke his spinning finger badly, that took him out of the game for a while as well. So, I mean, if he played all the games he was available for, he'd probably have 1,000 wickets, which is crazy, phenomenal stuff. I mean, you just threw in the ball, and just that was just one end taken care of. That's how easy it was to captain him. It just and then you just worry about the other end. He just was so good. He'd probably still be able to play now. I mean, that's how scary good he was. I mean, phenomenal. And just as a captain, I know the guys who followed me was, Steve Waugh and Mark Taylor in particular, even Ricky Ponting. I mean, just when he was in your team, Australia was dominant. As simple as that. It was just, a phenomenal career and, a really good man. He really is. I mean, yes, flaws, like us all, but, you take away all those trimmings, that we see in the public persona. Just the guy that you go sit down and have a beer with, he's top shelf.
You mentioned some of the tributes there. I guess we've seen Indian cricket, English cricket, some of Australia's fiercest rivals all paying tribute to the man, and it just speaks volumes that he was able to transcend, I guess, a lot of those rivalries, and people just appreciated the phenomenal cricketer that he was. I mean, we know Sir Donald Bradman. Everyone regards him as the greatest, if not one of the greatest cricketers of all time. Where would you rate Shane Warne? I mean, I know it's hard to compare, but I mean, he's got to be up there.
He's on that level because, forget, Sir Donald Bradman's a batsman. So you can straight away say, okay, well, he's our best batsman. Who's our best bowler? Okay, so that starts a pretty, interesting debate in itself, with, Lilly and McGrath and, countless others. But Warne, he's got to be our number one bowler ever. So to me, it's almost level, isn't it? Bradman, Warne, because of the different skill sets that they brought to the table. And the dominance when Shane Warne was playing for Australia, I don't know how many test matches we won or lost. I haven't seen those sort of stats. But when he's in the Australian cricket team, Australia win test matches. Same with Bradman. So it'd be interesting to do those sort of comparisons. But phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal career. I've shed some tears over the last couple of days with Rod Marsh. It's going to be hard, sort of, getting through the next couple of days. Just finally realising that I'm not going to see Shane again, and it's just so sad.
It's incredibly sad. Before I let you go, AB, how will you remember Shane Warne? What will be your fondest memory of him?
Well, I mean, he just transformed my captaincy. It was as simple as that. He was a breath of fresh air, as I said. When he came into the side, it was just fantastic for me as a captain to be able to just, manoeuvre the side around Warne, the fast bowlers we had at our disposal at the time, and just a good, solid teammate. I mean, we had a great relationship on and off the field. We played golf together at times. Whenever we could catch up, we did. It was just, one of my mates out of the game, which I've got plenty. But he was one of the mainstays, during cricket and post cricket. So I'm going to miss him terribly.
Alan Border, it's a shocking morning for everyone. I really do appreciate your time this morning. I wish you all the best, mate. We're thinking of you, his friends and family as well. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, as we head to the break, we'll leave you with the beauty, the style, the class that was Shane Keith Warne, the King of Spin. Yep, the MCG in 2006, the scene for one of the most famous wickets of Shane Warne's career. His 700th scalp was an absolute beauty, a classic leg break through the gate of England's Andrew Strauss, clean bowled. He was the first bowler to reach the 700 milestone and retired in style as the Aussies claimed that Ashes series 5-0. And the sporting world is in shock today with cricketing legend Shane Warne passing away of a suspected heart attack in Thailand. Taking 708 test wickets for Australia, Warne dazzled fans with brilliant deliveries and is regarded by many as the greatest bowler the game has ever seen. His career was filled with legendary moments and the work of pure genius.
Shane Warne retired as the greatest leg spinner the game had ever seen. But his career began with a splutter rather than a spark. Nobody who watched his 1992 Test debut against India would have thought they were seeing the start of anything special. Just 1 wicket and smashed for 150 runs. The tubby, mulleted blonde quickly found himself out of the Australian team. Warne, who wanted to play Aussie rules rather than cricket growing up, had to work his way back. Some good performances the following summer put him on the plane to England for the 1993 Ashes, and that's where everything changed.
First ball. Now what's happened? Mike Gatting staying there. The bail is off. He's bowled him. Gatting can't believe it.
His first ball ever in Ashes cricket, widely regarded as the greatest ball ever bowled.
I can understand Mike Gatting being disbelieving.
At the time, you just thought, oh, it was a good delivery. Like, oh, right, who's in next? And it just sort of grown. And, you know, I think it was one of the first years we had those big screens at the ground. So after a wicket, we'd all look up, and I thought, geez, that's pretty good.
From there, Warne dazzled with a genius never before seen. There'd been leg spinners before, good ones too, but none who had the control of Warne, the cricketing smarts to set up any batsman in the world, and the sheer brilliance to pull it off.
He's bowled him around the legs once again. And that's Shane Warne's best bowling in Test cricket.
I think when you watch me play, you could just see that I never ever gave up. I just always thought we could win. And I was very driven.
The myth of Warne would grow. The wrong-uns, the flippers, the sliders, the top spinners. An assortment of deliveries that would make the world's best batsmen look like club cricketers. In 1994, he became the 9th Australian to take a Test match hat-trick. Warne and fast bowler Glenn McGrath were the most devastating 1-2 punch in world cricket, and they were a huge part of Australia's unprecedented success. Warne, the greatest player in what most would consider the greatest cricket team ever assembled. Australia would win 8 straight Ashes series across 16 years, celebrate World Cup glory and record-breaking streaks of Test victories. His bowling feats were the stuff of legends, but he was also accomplished with the bat. Warne has the most runs in Test history for anyone without a century. In 2001, he fell just 1 run short.
There's a man out there who's getting under it, and he's got it. And Shane Warne tragically finishes on 99.
Warne was always the centre of attention, but not always for the right reasons. And on the eve of the 2003 World Cup, world cricket was rocked. Australia's golden boy banned for a year for taking a banned diuretic that Warne always said his mother gave to him to lose weight.
I never ever blame my mum, ever. And it sort of annoys me that people blame my mum. It wasn't fair. All I said was, I got it from my mum, because otherwise people might have thought, oh, diarrhea, where'd you get it from? Black market. I was just being honest about where I got it from and how simple a mistake it can be for anyone.
A year in the cricketing wilderness, and some thought that might have been the end for the ageing Warne, but he would return better than ever. The 2005 Ashes, a series Australia would lose, but it was Warne's finest with the ball.
Balled him. That's brilliant from Shane Warne. He does it again.
A staggering 40 wickets from the 5 tests. His wizardry equally astonishing for those watching and those trying to play him.
And bowled him! How about that? Absolutely brilliant from Shane Warne. He can bring things out of nowhere.
Leaving the Oval for the last time, Warne was serenaded by the normally abrasive enemy crowd with chants of "Oh, how we wish you were English." Even the old enemy knew they were witness to greatness. The 06-07 Ashes would be the final send-off for Australia's greatest ever bowler, after spinning Australia to the most unlikely of victories on day 5 of the now dubbed Amazing Adelaide Test. He announced the series would be his last. That meant one last Boxing Day Test in front of his adoring home crowd. He went to the MCG on 699 wickets. No man had ever reached 700.
Got him! There it is! Wicket number 700! And they can't catch him!
And with one last farewell at the SCG, Warne, along with McGrath and Justin Langer, ended a 15-year international career as the most decorated bowler the world had ever seen. But the on-field deeds would only tell half the Shane Warne story. He was a global celebrity like no one before him. In what could never be described as a high-octane game, and leg spin hardly thrilling, Warne was electrifying. He brought a swagger to the game. A cheeky smile and confident demeanour made him as much a crowd favourite as his extraordinary talents. Swashbuckling on and off the field, Warne became bigger than the game he was playing. An icon that transcended cricket and a legacy that will live on for generations. Shane Keith Warne, a genius, a champion, the king.
Yeah, it's still hard to believe that that's what we're reading about at the moment. It doesn't feel real. Scott Jackson joins me now. Scott, I'm like you, we woke up and you read the news, you see it, and it doesn't seem real.
No, it doesn't.
Still hasn't sunk in.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, everyone's got a story. It's one of those where were you moments, compare it to, Princess Diana, Peter Brock and Steve Irwin, one of those moments. For us, it's 1 a.m. and my phone's vibrating next to my head. I'm asleep, obviously, and my wife says, "Oh, your phone's ringing." You sort of see, "Oh, work's calling," and then straight away, something's happened, and then you read what's going on. You think it's one of those days that you just remember where you were. I mean, we know that SK Warne is no longer with us. After just 52 years, holidaying in Thailand, a larrikin. We all love a larrikin. Partying. He partied hard and played hard. That's why we loved him. Found unresponsive in his villa. And, our thoughts are with his children, Brooks, Summer and Jackson. It's just a tragedy that, it always hits us when a sports person passes away. But at the age of 52, that's just too young. And then on top of that, Shane Warne, one of our greatest ever sportsmen, no longer with us. It's still, quite unbelievable, tragically true.
He was, as Alan Border mentioned a little earlier in the show, widely regarded as the greatest bowler cricket has ever seen. And you only have to look at the genius of some of the vision we were seeing there. I mean, a larrikin, a comedian, a guy with so much charisma, so much character. But what he did on the cricket pitch, it was unbelievable sometimes.
Indeed it was. And as Justin said in his report, 1992, a leg spinner on debut. As you'd expect, any leggy didn't go too well. 1 for 150 against India and dropped out of the team. Back in soon enough, though, on that ball of the century, his first ever delivery on English soil. At the time, the commentators sort of, what happened there? Mike Gadding, that we had off the top of the bulletin, was sort of saying he stood there stunned. He was considered one of the best in the world to play spin bowling, and it's just cleaned him up. And at the time, you didn't realise how good it was. And Shane Warne has spoken about it on Cricket Legends on Fox Cricket that, we sort of looked up at the big screen and he said, I looked at it and thought, yeah, that was pretty good, wasn't it? But it wasn't until much later. That ball kept getting replayed and, it's widely considered what it is, the ball of the century. And that really kicked off his career. It gave him the confidence that he probably needed at that young age to go on. And didn't he go on? What a career he had. 708 Test wickets over 15 years. And as Alan Border said, when Shane Warne was playing, Australia won Test matches. And it was a great team, but he was the greatest in that team. And if McGrath couldn't get it done by going through you, then the skipper would just throw the ball to SK Warne to go around them instead and he'd get the job done. We won World Cups and countless Ashes series with Shane Warne tormenting England and India or whoever was at the other end. and created individual moments as well. I mean, the ball of the century I mentioned, the 700th Test wicket in front of 90,000 fans at the MCG, his home track, and he knocks over Mr. Strauss, the old enemy in an Ashes series. The MCG goes nuts. It's just, it was another moment. Even his 99 not out, and I say not out because technically, okay, he was given out, but Dan Vettori bowled a no ball, and should have gone to triple figures. His highest ever Test score with the bat. He made the tail wag on more than one occasion. A 99, okay, out. The record books will say, but they turned it into a beer. Only with Shane Warne. It's just a sign of who he was. 99 not out the beer. I love it.
He's just so iconic. I tell you, growing up watching the Australian Test team, whenever Shane Warne lined up, you felt safe. I just felt safe about our team because he had so much talent, so much charisma. You wanted to watch him bowl and you knew that he was going to deliver results. And I mean, it's a testament. We see some of these great scenes.
This is when he got out for 99.
Many people lived and breathed Warne. They fell in love with the absolute character that he was. He was an honest guy. He was true blue,
He was.
But then off the field, he was so much more as well.
So much more than a cricketer. And that's where, he becomes one of the greatest ever sportsmen for what he did on the field. But he's an Australian icon. He lived a Hollywood life. He was friends with rock stars and was dating Elizabeth Hurley. Everyone knew who he was, not even if he didn't love cricket, He made headlines all over the world and not necessarily for what he did on the cricket pitch. As I said before, an old school larrikin who played hard and partied hard as well. And we love that mentality. His mentality on sports science that he speaks about with Crash Craddock. Sports science is the everything with sport now, and he is unapologetically opinionated when it comes to things like that. Sports science does play a role, but he thinks it's too much. A sports brain can't trump sports science. And what a sports brain that Shane Warne had. I mentioned unapologetically opinionated, and some people didn't like what he had to say, but he only ever wanted cricket to thrive. And when you know more about the game than just about anyone else, he told you what he thought, and he wasn't holding back. You knew where he stood. You knew where you stood, rather, with Shane Warne. If you didn't like something, he'd tell you, and it didn't matter who you were. It could be, you or I, or it could be the Prime Minister. It could be anyone. So that's what you love about him. Look, he wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, but I think that even more so just helped us relate to Shane Warne. And, a classic Aussie pub chat. Who would you like to have a beer with? Shane Warne's at the top of a lot of people's lists. Australia's lost a mate today.
Absolutely, and I guess we will have some of the tributes flowing in a little later in the show, but they're coming thick and fast at the moment from all corners of the globe. Doesn't matter whether you're a cricket fan or not. There's a lot of people who are waking up shocked today to the news that Shane Warne has passed. Scott Jackson, thank you. Do stick around here on Fox Sports News. We'll have more on the reflections of the life of Shane Warne up next. Welcome back to Fox Sports News. We'll have more on the passing of Shane Warne and some of the tributes that are flowing in from around the globe very soon. But we'll touch on some of the other sport news around today. And Australia have managed to take only one wicket on day one of their first test against Pakistan. In Australia's first test in the country for 24 years, Pakistan dominated from the first over. Openers Imam ul Haq and Abdullah Shafiq put on a 105-run partnership before a foolish shot allowed Line to break through. Imam ul Haq was composed, though, scoring a maiden test match century.
Line down the track and he smashed that. That's a very good shot indeed. That's gone for 6 runs.
That's even better. Nothing more than just a punch. Punch through into the offside. Just a check drive or race away for 4. And Imam ul Haq goes to glory. His first 100 in Test cricket. Has been a long journey to get there.
Azhar Ali also pounced on the loose ball for Pakistan. Australia's first day of Test cricket since the departure of coach Justin Langer was one to forget. Pakistan finished 1 for 245. Imam ul Haq batting for the entire day, finishing on 132 not out. While they managed only one wicket, it was a disciplined bowling display. Australia keeping the run rate to under 3 and over. A number of stars have impressed for the Brisbane Lions in their Community Series win over the Western Bulldogs, securing a 6-point win. Brisbane coach Kevin Walters has agreed to a one-year extension with the Broncos, keeping him at the club until 2023. Jazz Mostert has topped the timesheets in a wild practice session for the Supercars season opener at Sydney Motorsport Park. And the South East Melbourne Phoenix have opened the NBL Indigenous round in style, defeating the Adelaide 36ers by 7 points. Well, Shane Keith Warne was an icon of the game. The king of spin, beloved for his charm on and off the field. His craft was exceptional. Very few knew the game as well as he did, and these are some of the reflections on the sport that he had.
I can still see this sign tied to the grandstand. Thanks, Mr. Packer. That's my first memory of cricket, Kerry Packer's World Series. I'm sitting there with my brother Jason, carrying on, so excited we dropped our ice creams. Not many people went to Waverley Park that first night, but it didn't matter because Dennis Lilly was there. The great DK Lilly. I'll never forget it. Those gold chains, shirt unbuttoned, the moustache and that wild mane of hair. Fireballs coming out of his right hand.
That is plumb.
Wow. Me? I was never going to be a fast bowler. At East Sandringham Boys Cricket Club, the main man, captain of the first, was this guy who could spin a ball like you wouldn't believe and make it bounce and spit all over the place. His name was Kim Pitt. So I began imitating Kim Pitt on those matting pitches. My early deliveries were often double bounces and full tosses, you name it. But I stuck at it, and I got pretty good at it.
He's done it. Gary has absolutely no idea what has happened to it. Oh, and that's out, caught behind. Yes, he's got him first ball. Shane Warne. Yes! Oh, he's got him. Yes, he has. He's got him. It's a hat-trick. Yes, he's gone. He's gone. It's a hat-trick. That's a hat-trick to Shane Warne. A great moment in his career. Got him. There it is. Wicket number 700. And they can't catch him.
The history of cricket means so much to me. The history and especially the characters. Lilly, Chappelli,
Good shot from Chappell.
Rod Marsh, Bill, Richie Benaud.
He's able to position his hands in exactly the right spot.
What was Richie thinking with those lamb chop sideburns? Straight out of Thunderbirds.
There's a bit of bounce there.
I love those guys. Absolutely love them. We were young boys in Australia playing backyard cricket, having the time of our lives. We'd turn the commentary on the telly right up and race out into the backyard. You'd hear Bill Lawry roar, "It's all happening here at the MCG." And you'd let that tennis ball fly with the extra bit of effort. Those guys in World Series changed cricket forever. And now it's our turn to revolutionise the game, to take Fox cricket to another level, and not just by Australian standards. I know people say I live a soap opera life. Well, I don't know about that. I think I'm very lucky, and I'm very thankful for my life to have played in such a great period of Australian cricket. The friends I've made, Chris Martin of Coldplay, who's one of my best friends, Ed Sheeran, Mick Jagger. Here's the thing, I've never changed. People think because you're engaged to Elizabeth Hurley, you're backstage with Chris Martin, they think you're going to be different. I'm not. I'm exactly the same as the kid who went to Waverley with his brother to watch a game of cricket way back in 1978. And I always will be.